The Association of African Universities, AAU, Africa's apex higher education organization, invites stakeholders to its 15th quadrennial General Conference from 5th to the 8th of July 2021. The theme is the future of African higher education. The conference will be held virtually and hosted by the government of Ghana under 6 sub-themes as follows. Sub-theme 1, the future of African higher education post-COVID-19. Sub-theme 2, contributions of African higher education institutions to addressing the challenges linked to the COVID-19 pandemic. Sub-theme 3, contributions of African higher education institutions in achieving sustainable development goals. Sub-theme 4, funding of African higher education institutions in the face of unpredictable economy. Sub-theme 5, mainstreaming e-learning and the digital divide. Sub-theme 6, contributions of the diaspora to African higher education. Expected participants include ministries of higher education, academics, researchers and research organizations, regional economic communities, regional educational bodies like IUCEA, CAMES, and Sarua, the organized private sector and captains of industry, development partners, and other education stakeholders. The AAU's 15th Quadrennial General Conference is here. To register, kindly go to the link below, and for further enquiries, please visit the website www.event.aau.org/GenCon or send an email to secgen@aau.org and copy info@aau.org. AAU, the voice of higher education in Africa.
L'Association des universités africaines, AUA, l'organisation faîtière de l'enseignement supérieur en Afrique, invite toutes les parties prenantes à sa 15e conférence générale quadriennale qui se tiendra du 5 au 8 juillet 2021. Le thème de cette conférence est l'avenir de l'enseignement supérieur africain. La conférence se tiendra virtuellement et ce sera accueilli par le gouvernement du Ghana. Elle comprend les 6 sous-thèmes principaux suivants. Sous-thème 1, l'avenir de l'enseignement supérieur africain après la COVID-19. Sous-thème 2, contribution des établissements d'enseignement supérieur africains pour le relevé des défis liés à la pandémie COVID-19. Sous-thème 3, contribution des établissements d'enseignement supérieur africains à la réalisation des objectifs de développement durable. Sous-thème 4, financement des établissements d'enseignement supérieur africains face à une économie imprévisible. Sous-thème 5, intégration de l'apprentissage en ligne et de la fracture numérique. Sous-thème 6, contribution de la diaspora à l'enseignement supérieur africain. Les participants attendus comprenant entre autres les ministères de l'enseignement supérieur, des universitaires, les chercheurs et organismes de recherche en Afrique et au-delà, les organismes éducatifs régionaux comme la IUCEA, la CAMES, la Sarua, le secteur privé organisé et les chefs d'industrie, les partenaires de développement, agences et organisations internationales et d'autres acteurs de l'éducation. La 15e conférence générale quadriennale de l'AUA est là. Pour vous inscrire et participer, veuillez visiter la tinyurl.com/AAUGC 2021 et pour plus d'informations sur la conférence, veuillez visiter le site web event.aau.org/GenCon ou envoyer un courriel à secgen@aau.org et copier info@aau.org. L'AUA, la voie de l'enseignement supérieur en Afrique.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Agenda 2063 TV show, the only show in Ghana, the region continent, telling the unique and authentic stories about the AU, Africa, Agenda 2063 and its narrative. It's an important narrative that we need to tell. And even though we're going to spend the better part of this series also talking about aspects of the African Continental Free Trade Area, we're still going to be talking about Agenda 2063, its impacts, its fallouts, and so on. For which reason, today we have a highly trained specialist to help us understand and unpack that for us and its impact on, or at least COVID's impact on it. So we're going to take a break in a minute and we'll be back with our normal two segments, the APRM Watch and Aeon East Africa. We'll be right back. In today's edition of APRM Watch, we want to remind audiences about the very important role the APRM plays in the context of the African Union and Agenda 2063, with some very important facts and reminders about the journey so far. First, out of the total 55 AU member states, the current number of member states participating in APRM is 40, so that's like 40 out of 55, that's 72%. APRM has just 3 years to get the other 28% to accede. The tag is hashtag towards universal accession 2023. We're hoping that within those 3 years, a lot more. We're at the 32nd APRM Forum held in Addis in January this year. A second important point is that the APRM is and remains an autonomous entity within the African Union structures, expanding its mandate to cover tracking and monitoring of Agenda 2063 and the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Thirdly, the head of the South African Institute of International Affairs, Elizabeth Sidiropol, said this in 2019, quote, Article 4H, Principle of Non-Indifference, born of abuses by elites of their own citizens. AU and APRM is homegrown initiative creating mechanism to enable peer review around governance to deal with African challenges. So at the heart of that is APRM to talk specifically about governance challenges and how we hope that 2023, a lot more work would have been done on that. And finally, in May 2019, communicators across the continent were brought together in South Africa to help form the Africa Peer Review Mechanism Communications Network. So there actually is one that has been running for the past year or so. There's an active WhatsApp group running. They're on Twitter, they're on Instagram, they're on Facebook, and they're all helping to promote the APRM narrative so that everyone gets to understand that the APRM's mandate has expanded, it's huge, it's all about democratic governance, and it may even go to the extent of supplanting Afrobarometer, who knows. Even though they've been doing some work with Afrobarometer, part of the Agenda 2063 family as well, so we will highly welcome and support that. Thank you once again for this APRM update. We hope to give you some more exciting updates next week. Once again, I'm very happy to be bringing you another exciting edition of Air on East Africa. In today's edition of this segment, we're going to turn to Agenda 2063 inspired project, the African Integrated High-Speed Railway Network. Now, this is important because it remains a flagship project of Agenda 2063, and basically it's aiming at facilitating the achievement of the AU vision of integrating Africa physically and economically. And now in July 2020, the AUDA NEPAD, the African Union Development Agency, and NEPAD released a video, a 7-minute video capturing the conception, design, and implementation for the network. The video includes reports from across Africa dedicated to reviving railways, expansion, and modernization in the spirit of the Continental Rail Plan. You will know that in Ghana, a lot of work has also been done on our railways, and we highly welcome that as well. It's all part in fulfillment of this whole railway plan for the continent. The planned network will connect 16 landlocked countries in Africa to major seaports and neighboring countries, and it will establish interoperability of railways across different regions, create east-west, north-south land bridges, and interconnect African capitals. This will, interestingly, 4 routes in East Africa are referenced in the video, suggesting, as always, how important East Africa remains a cog in the wheel of Africa's integration. Now, these routes are Dar es Salaam, Kigali routes, Mombasa, Nairobi, standard gauge routes, Addis Ababa, Djibouti routes, which apparently have been doing very well, and finally, all in East Africa, which tells you how important that region is going to be over the next couple of years, weeks, and months, as Africa begins its whole conversation on integrating through the African Continental Free Trade Area. One of the greatest objectives of the African Rail Network will be to connect capitals and economic hubs. Once again, thank you for giving your time for this important update. We hope to have another very important update on Air in East Africa for you next week, educating ourselves about Agenda 2063. Thank you, Rabbi. Welcome back from the break, and I'm very happy to have today in our studio specialists who will be able to help us demystify, unpack, and explain this whole conversation around Agenda 2063, but with the specialist aspect of education. Now we have in the studio Dr. Violet Makuku, who is quality assurance expert at Association of African Universities right here in Accra. And we're talking today a very important issue about whether COVID-19, that, Dr. Makuku, maybe you can tell us that, and then we can move on to why it could derail and possible solutions and so on and so forth.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate this time. Yes, we have Agenda 2063, the Africa we want, and this is a brainchild of the African Union. And it looks at the continent and where we are going to be in the next 63 years and so on. But what is key are the 7 aspirations which are in the Africa that will be led by the youth and women. And they are there, the aspirations. But what we want to focus on, like what you have said, is the effect of the pandemic on Agenda 2063. We have those 7 aspirations and the development goals, but with a particular focus at our own continent. We all know that the COVID-19 outbreak has wreaked havoc throughout the world.
Yes.
Everything that is in Agenda 2060. When you have educated people, you know that at least they've got the knowledge and skills of moving the continent forward. But what is happening, I think when I was checking on the news with Al Jazeera, they were talking of more than 28 million people or children who will not be able to access schooling.
Wow.
And what does that mean to us? But we also need to consider it in a broader perspective that other than COVID-19, if we look at East Africa, We have had the floods. We also had the swarms of locusts. So for me, I would say we could expand it to disasters. And here we are with our Agenda 2063. Will all these disasters stop us from moving?
No.
Thank you. So, because we can fall, pick ourselves, continue, fall again at some stage, pick ourselves and continue. But what I see as the most dangerous thing is you fall and you don't
Pick yourself up.
Pick yourself up. Because the whole world has got its own fair share of challenges, and nobody is there to solve our challenges for us.
Yes.
We have the African Free Trade Area. We need to think about it.
Yes.
What can we do? Will we stop until COVID-19 goes? When
stop.
will it go?
We can't stop. That's why we have to manage things.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we need to manage things. But along with that, remember before the COVID-19 pandemic, we were also having now the talk of the fourth industrial revolution. And so for me, revolution, they are prompting us to do something as a continent. To say, here is our continent, here are the 7 aspirations of where we want to see our continent going and how we want to revamp and improve our continent. But like I said earlier, everything is hinged on education. But when you also look at higher education, that's where we are now churning out those graduates with the knowledge and skills to drive the industry. But we need to take also the whole entrepreneurial mindset in it. What does it mean to us? Your first question was, what is the Agenda 2063? We need to take it into the classroom.
Yes.
We need to take it into the university. We need to take it into the colleges so that the people in Africa from tender ages understand that we have this Agenda 2063 and we need to accomplish the aspirations.
It's been running for the past 7 years. 2013 was when it was, let's say, conceptualized by Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma and her team at the AU Commission. So some will say it's 7 years too late. Why is it a pandemic has now come to compel us to start doing an education on it when we should have started a long time ago?
Yes, I think you are just bringing another important dimension. You know, COVID-19 has been highly devastating.
Yes.
But there are certain things which we have also seen as positive being brought by the COVID-19 pandemic. You know, countries closed their borders.
Yes.
When they closed their borders, it was each nation for itself.
Yes.
And you know, people earlier for these things, but for the very first time, we saw African universities doing these researches on how to develop ventilators because they now knew they couldn't get them from anywhere.
Yes.
We saw the sanitizers and everything else, researches around COVID-19. And so what it tells me is that Africa is also capable of solving its own problems because we say necessity is the mother of invention.
Yes.
In the absence of anything else to assist, what do?
Yeah.
You need to find your way, you need to find your path. So my word would be, let's just continue with the momentum. And again, this is another grand opportunity to look back and say, what did we do with the Agenda 2063, the Africa we want? What can we do under the circumstances? So we had our African Free Trade Area. I think it was meant to start operating in August. And then we move maybe September or 2021. But I think we have seen that in our different countries, what we have not closed borders to is trade.
Yes.
Because I think all the president says we will continue to have food, drugs, and these other things coming through cargo, air, and also through our borders. So the African Free Trade Area should be live.
Yes.
We have the protocols,
Yeah.
and still life has to go on. What we need to do is to make sure we institute the protocols, and then we start having this trade gradually taking shape. We are the ones to make sure it takes shape. So we will derail everything.
It shouldn't be like that, because at the end of the day, Agenda 2063 is also talking about, or harping to the fact that the AU as a global player.
Yes.
So if the AU is going to serve as a global player, we've seen the efforts of the Africa Centers for Disease Control and how it has guided, looking for testing, tracing, and so on and so forth. Surely that should remind us that the AU is kind of building some kind of solidarity, some kind of support to be able to do things.
Yes.
Entrepreneurship is one aspect. I mean, you've seen a lot of countries. The other day just held a webinar on, the standards that you need for the hand sanitizers and so on. So it means that Africa is looking within.
Yes.
But still, is it not? Is it too late playing catch up to the agenda? People say, well, typical of the AU, they always respond so late.
Yes.
They can't say that of the Africa CDC, thankfully, but the other things, and maybe Agenda 2063, some may say, well, it's just one of those things that, one of those plans that, the AU has always had, and, no one is really implementing.
One problem.
Yeah.
What is African Union?
Yeah.
Who is African Union?
Yeah.
Isn't it made by the African countries?
Yes.
African governments,
Yes.
who represent the African people.
Yes.
So why should I push it to you? Why can't we do it together?
Yes.
So we all have a role to play in Agenda 2063 and realize the goals that have been set in there. So that's one major problem we need to solve. But going forward, like what I've said, 2013 years, 7 years down the line, yes. So if we are all part and parcel of solving the problem, it means if I take, for example, higher education, we have, again, the baby for the African Union, which is the Continental Education Strategy for Africa. We take the Continental Education Strategy for Africa and we make sure we blend it with the Agenda 2063. And what it simply tells me is that when we are looking at every level and sector of education, from the lowest level to the highest level, we need to take aspects of the Agenda 2063 and inculcate them in the curriculum.
Yes.
Or formulate new curricula, which are blended with this entrepreneurship. Because I think we have big issues of interpretations and definitions. Yes, if I say entrepreneurship, somebody quickly thinks of doing a business, but it's much more than that. Serving our communities, it's part of entrepreneurship.
Yes.
So people would need to have these engraved in the curricula at all levels, from kindergarten going up to university level. University level, I said Continental Education Strategy for Africa is also for everyone. So how does it pave a way? How does it inform us of building new degree programs, constructing new courses and designing new courses with new content, and also blending old content with new content? And again, it's an opportunity to throw away obsolete content and look for that which is relevant. Because strategy for Africa is meant for all of us. Yes.
Okay, and I think on that note, we're going to take a break, and when we return, we'll have you explain a little bit briefly what the CESA is about, the Continental Education Strategy, and how that links to Agenda 2063's education. We'll take a break, we'll be right back.
Without distraction, in the most conducive and serene environment, and make the most out of every minute. Master technology with the widest spectrum of science and engineering programs. Learn the most innovative methods for sustainable agriculture and renewable energy. Choose between a variety of sports at our vast Luwero complex. Turn your time and money into a degree that makes a difference. ndu.ac.ug. Better University. Come experience a holistic approach to learning.
Welcome back from the break. You're still watching Agenda 2063 TV show, where we tell authentic and important stories about the AU institutions, and especially Agenda 2063 expert to help us understand the developments around Agenda 2063, education, the impact of coronavirus or COVID, and whether that will derail or otherwise the Agenda 2063 narrative that we have come to appreciate. So you were talking just before the break a bit about the Continental Education Strategy. Maybe you can help viewers and listeners unpack that a little for those who don't understand why the AU needs a Continental Education Strategy. When all member states already have their education systems, why do we need a continental one at all?
Yes, so this one has got some very, very important key points. The key points are revitalizing the education, research, teaching and learning, as well as community engagement. And when we look at the purpose of education in general is to solve the political, socio-economic challenges. And as we are talking of COVID-19, it's a pandemic. We have lost direction. And here we are also with our Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. So we question, should we really go to also lose focus of it?
Yes.
Maybe we need to think of innovative ways of taking it on board through research, through teaching and learning, and also through community engagement, working together with the communities and industry, so that we can realize Agenda 2063 goals.
It's important. It's very interesting that you talk about community engagement, because an education strategy that talks about bringing in the community, that's quite unusual. You would have thought that why does it see the value of community engagement as part of an important cog in the wheel?
Yes, because I think that's one mistake which institutions or academic institutions make. In most cases, they devote like less time, 10%, 5% of the time to community engagement and industry linkages. But if you check it again, this then creates gaps.
Yes.
If we are not engaging with the community, like when I look at the Association of African Universities in particular, it is the implementing arm of the African Union Commission in terms of higher education matters.
Yes.
And so we should extend that to the communities. We work with higher education, but then we need also to continue pushing them to go and work with the communities. As they work with the communities, two things are happening. The students that they are teaching are learning what happens in the real communities. They are learning to work with the communities. And at the same time, they are giving knowledge and skills again to the communities that they are working with. Imagine if it is an academic project that is being undertaken by university staff and students, maybe to do with a promotion of the African free trade area. Can you imagine the impact? It would be highly impactful, because even when we talk about it and the COVID-19, is everybody now aware of this free trade area? Or we still have work to do?
We have work to do.
You see now, and that can only be done successfully through engaging the communities, through engaging with industry. Because industry is going to help us with, look at the terrain now. the new digital norm is dictating something different. So please, academic institutions, as you train your staff, we have new pieces of equipment we are working with. So get that and teach your students. Bring them here, and we also show them and train them during internship how to do it. And so it's a whole lot of collaboration and teamwork that really needs to go into it in order to come up with practical solutions and practical results in our continent. Otherwise, we keep on talking theory, and it will end us nowhere.
And I like that last point you made, because I think it goes back very strongly to something that we had discussed in the planning for the show, which is about the so-called new normal.
Yes.
This that everyone has been talking about. Okay, this new normal has involved people being at home, needing to buy data where they wouldn't have bought data that much amount to be able to, speak, to help participate in webinars and all these other things. So a lot of time is spent online.
Yeah.
What does that mean, or what does it portend for posterity, for the new generation of graduates who are up and coming, who need to embrace this new normal? What in your view do they need? What kind of skills do they need to be able to adapt into this new environment?
Thank you very much. Now you bring in the issue of linking up with what I've said, that we may need to create new programs. We need to also design some new courses, and we may need to add on new content in order to make sure we reduce this gap which has been created. Because what is the new normal? It's seemingly moving toward digital. And by the time they graduate,
So where?
And so they need the ICT skills. But it's a mistake to limit it only to ICT skills. This time around, they need these skills of fast thinking, highly adaptive to circumstances, to say anytime anything can change. And so they need to be fast thinkers who can adapt to new environments quickly, innovators, to say this is the scenario that we have now. Can we just stop looking at what is happening and take the wait and see stance? If you take the wait and see stance, then what will eventually happen? So they need to be innovative, creative, and highly responsive. And to take a leadership, to say, I want to initiate this thing, and I'll bring on board people, no matter the age, the position at the workplace, gender, and any other parameters that you could think of. This time around, those things should not really matter, but we are looking for these skills which can continue to move life and to move us to sustainability, other than taking a wait and see stance. So with development and inculcation of those skills into the current students who will be the future employers and employees, we need to make sure these things are in the curriculum.
In reflecting of all that you have said about education and curriculum, what can, in your view, can we do to fast-track this education? Because although shows like this exist, it would probably be fast-tracked if it existed in every country. If there were Agenda 2063 in Nigeria, in Liberia, etc. Sadly, we know that that's not going to happen anytime soon. So what then do people need to do practically to make sure that we can fast-track this kind of education? Because already the curriculum has been set. Schools, have been having exams, we know, with WAEC and so on and so forth. In the next year or two, is there anything in that that the AU has planned to look concretely about education, maybe together with UNESCO, who knows, on how we can carry this message forward on Agenda 2063?
Yes, what I'm saying that the ball is in everybody's court.
Yes.
the moment we leave it to African Union alone, then we are missing the whole point.
Okay.
But what we need are strong collaborations. If we are coming on board with UNESCO, with United Nations, with our African Union, Association of African Universities, the ministries in different African countries, the vice chancellors, you know, all the key stakeholders, all hands on deck is what we need right now in order to realize these goals which we have been set for the Agenda 2063. And for your own information, nobody set those goals for us. It's us as Africans who set those goals, and we need to make sure that we implement them. And we should not push them in everybody's court and leave ourselves. We should be in it together.
Okay.
And then in that regard, then it's we need to find some dissemination strategies.
Yes.
Because we need to have it getting to national levels, to the grassroots.
Yes.
And to the nations, the responsible ministries of education. But are they the only ones that can help us with dissemination?
Yeah.
No, we also have ministries of youth, ministries of gender, and these other ministries of information through radios and televisions and so on. And then this time around, the expenses have been drastically reduced because of the webinars. Webinars can be set on Zoom, on Adobe Connect or Microsoft Teams, on all these platforms that have been created. So why can't we spearhead each one in their corner? Spearhead the intake and uptake, the education and awareness, so that it gets and filters into everybody and we begin to act. But like I've said, it's through education. An educated nation is a nation which is just proactive and a moving nation. So how can we also now make sure that we continue with education and we leverage on what we have? Because some people still are saying we have these lockdowns and so on. How are we going to make sure we resolve the issue of those who no longer have access at this time?
Yes, especially data. Those who have access to the internet, there's still a lot of people who don't have, and it's scattered across all of us. We need to all of us do that in our different corners. And I think what you're trying to say also is that Corona is just but one of many things that has come to derail.
That's true.
Therefore, we need to pick ourselves up and move forward.
Yes.
At least for those of you viewers who have been following Agenda 2063 for the past couple of weeks and so on, just know that we always welcome feedback. So we'd love to hear from you also, your comments and questions.
Yes.
And especially, also we have someone from AAU TV as an expert who can help us better understand the educational aspects and the continental education strategy for Africa as well, because it's very underpopularized. We don't talk enough about it, but we hope that shows like this will be able to help, unpack that strategy so that it is linked to the Agenda 2063 conversation. You will know that Agenda 2063, for example, is going to be a major part of the AU as a global player over the next couple of years. Buy into that Agenda 2063. It's so important. What skills will we need to be able to, for the new graduate to be able to appreciate and understand what Agenda 2063 has come to do for Africans? Were it not for Agenda 2063, the Africa we want, who knows? Maybe Africa CDC may not have been, have not been so impelled to, look for African-owned solutions, and maybe had just gone to donors. Who knows? But the point is, Africa is capable of, managing its own affairs, and Agenda 2063 is a very, very, very important cog in that wheel of appreciating Agenda 2063. That's why having Dr. Violet Makuku here. So Makuku, In your view, I've talked about this whole thing about the fact that, whilst we have talked about derailment, that really shouldn't be a problem because other man-made things, disasters have come and so on and so forth. In your view, what do we, not necessarily member states or even Association of African Universities, but what, as individuals, in your view, those of us who are living through this pandemic, to be able to tell it to our children, grandchildren, whatever else, what in your view do we need to quickly do to make sure that we keep on track with the Agenda 2063, we keep it in mind that we're always on that goal?
Yes, I think you have brought in a very good dimension. So I think we talk of informal education.
Okay.
Yes. This time around, because of the ICT, Internet of Things and so on, people in most cases do not even have quality time, maybe husband and wife with their children and their relatives and what. Everybody else is glued on their phone.
On the smartphone.
But we may need to think twice of taking part of those opportunities to say, when we are relaxed, when we are with our children, or when we are just driving from point A to point B, can't I talk briefly about Agenda 2063? And by the time I educate my child, maybe next time he or she will have the friends and these relatives who came to see us today, when they also go, they will talk about it. And even with our WhatsApp groups and social media, why are we not sharing the way we would share all these jokes and these gifts that we always share? In the same manner, I think we can take the opportunity to also share. I remember one time I tweeted Agenda 2063, the Africa we want, and I picked the aspiration for the Africa that is going to be led by its youth and women. And then when I go to my LinkedIn, I'm also posting a continental education strategy for Africa, the document. I post Agenda 2063, the Africa we want, the document. And my followers will now go on to check what is this Agenda 2063.
Yes, that's a good point.
That's what we should do.
Yes.
We use everything that is available for information dissemination and for education and awareness. Very, very key. But you find sometimes it depends on the way our daily operations. So we need to be open-minded and also to make sure that we scout and follow opportunities, not only about Agenda 2063, but about life in general. And what I say is that we always need to be positive. If you don't, also realize that your problems are contextual, and you may need homegrown solutions. When you also look for other solutions, you may also get them at a cost. So all those things are implications to how we are going to continue promoting Agenda 2063, it being known, and also moving towards the practical steps to make sure that people are doing what helps to get to the goals as they are set.
So basically, I think in wrapping up, your message is clear, that it starts with us, the education. As it is here, we are managing it. How do we manage it? We manage it by still continuing to tell our own stories. Still, whispering it to our, family members, to our friends, and so on, up until everyone gets to the point. Whilst we, of course, have shows like this, which will help further disseminate it. So I think your point is well.
Websites too can be used, and emails too. In our communities, like us in higher education, we disseminate it to universities, to vice chancellors, to colleges, to any means that is available to everybody can be used.
Okay, so thank you very much. I believe that you have ended on a very important note, which is a positive one, to say that all hope is not lost as far as the Agenda 2063 narrative is concerned.
Yes.
We started off with an understanding that one of the casualties of the Agenda 2063 narrative was the African Continental Free Trade Area itself, which did not start in July, but now has been postponed to 2021. Irrespective of that, trading is still going on, and even in regions like COMESA, the Common Market for East and Southern Africa, I think last week or so they started talking about digital trade. They've been doing things on digital trade. Trading is still continuing at a digital level, and the whole world is going digital, even though sometimes the webinars and Zoom and Google Meets can be, some way, and sometimes it can be inundating. This is the future, and so we need to find ways to adapt to it, and also remember that Agenda 2063 is not going to go away. The 7 aspirations are all part of and parcel of what will make the AU a global player, because it is a global player. No matter how much we feel with the criticism that we have of the AU has come very far. It has challenges, it is flawed, and so on and so forth. Popularization is needed, but we believe that shows like this and having experts like Dr. Makuka all help, tell our story of where Agenda 2063 needs to be and needs to go. So with that, I just want to say thank you very, very much for taking time out of your schedule to watch us and also try to understand this. As always, if you have comments and questions, free to drop it on the line, and we hope to have a very interesting conversation with you and a new topic.
The Association of African Universities, AAU, is an international non-governmental organization set up by universities in Africa to promote cooperation among themselves and the international academic community.
Mon nom est professeur Étienne Eouan-Eilé. Je suis le secrétaire à Accra, au Ghana. Je vais vous parler de la création de l'Association des universités africaines. Il faut remonter dans les années 60 pour pouvoir comprendre le processus. Déjà en 1960, nos dirigeants estimaient que l'éducation est l'outil majeur pour pouvoir lutter contre la pauvreté et assurer le développement.
I am Nodumo Dlamini. I'm the Director of ICT Services and Knowledge Management at the Association of African Universities. The Association of African Universities is a network of 400 universities. Of the association is this big platform that allows them to collaborate, allows them to work together, allows them to teach together. Through this platform, a university in North Africa can work with a university in Southern Africa, and also those in East Africa can work with those in West Africa.
Founded November 1967 at a conference in Rabat, Morocco, by heads of African higher education institutions, the association is currently headquartered in Accra, Ghana.
My name is Maxwell Amo-Hoyt. I'm the Director of Finance of the Association of African Universities. The association sustains itself from contributions from member universities and also from other development partners. Some of our development partners include the World Bank, other governmental agencies like the Swedish International Development Agency, UK Department for International Development, and other partners. We also receive a lot of support from other governments, especially the government of Ghana. Other partners include the African Union, which is more or less the parent organization of the Association of African Universities. The Association of African Universities hosts the Secretariat for the African Union's Continental Education Strategy. And by so doing, we provide coordinating roles for the African Union in helping members achieve their targets.
Déjà en 1960, nos dirigeants estimaient que l'éducation est l'outil majeur pour pouvoir lutter contre la pauvreté et assurer le développement. Et rappelons-nous que les années 60, la décade 60, a été une décade où la plupart des pays africains ont obtenu leur indépendance ou ont, disons, pris les dispositions pour être indépendants. C'était donc aussi l'année de développement, dans la mesure où tous ces pays indépendants devaient se retrouver de temps en temps pour parler de comment mettre ensemble leurs problèmes et trouver une solution commune à leurs problèmes. Et dans ce contexte-là, l'éducation était une priorité pour eux, surtout l'éducation universitaire. Et sur ce plan-là, les universités aussi se sont organisées grâce à plusieurs réunions depuis Madagascar jusqu'au Maroc.
My name is Jonathan Umba. I'm the Director of Research and Academic Planning. The programs and projects that we run at AAU are consistent with our strategic plan, and they are implemented for our higher education stakeholders, namely the higher education institutions in Africa. These programs are implemented in such a way that our stakeholders will get the benefit of membership of our association. And our programs also are aligned with a number of global and international agendas on higher education, including the Continental Education Strategy for Africa and the Agenda 2063. So these programs are aligned with a number of international agendas with a view to promoting higher education in Africa.
The AAU is the apex organization and principal forum for consultation, exchange of information, and cooperation among universities in Africa.
I am Professor Nkusa Mahao, Vice Chancellor of the National University of Lesotho in the Kingdom of Lesotho in Southern Africa. There are roughly 77 universities that are affiliated with the AAU in the region. But as you might be aware, there are a lot more universities that are as yet to take the membership of the Association of African Universities. Well, universities that are not members of the AAU are missing quite a lot. First of all, let's appreciate this one point, that the AAU is a main tribe from the angle of training and capacitating the human resources of the continent. The agenda of the African Union is in the opportunity to leverage on the opportunities that are provided by the association in the area of training, human resource capital, training their own staff and students, the opportunities that are provided by the universalization of quality management on higher education on the continent, and many other opportunities that are provided.
Et en 1963, il y a eu une réunion à Khartoum, au Soudan, où les chefs des institutions d'enseignement supérieur ont décidé de créer l'Association des universités africaines. Finalement, la création va se faire à une conférence qui s'est tenue à Rabat au Maroc, et la création de l'Association des universités africaines a eu lieu le 12 novembre 1967.
I'm Prof. Hassan Kafi, AAU Governing Board member, representing for East African region. Also, I am the president of Plasma University, Mogadishu, Somalia. We really like to give a call for universities in Africa, especially in East Africa, those which are not members still in the Association of African Universities. We are calling them because we feel the organization is ours. It represents the voice of higher education in Africa being seen all over the world.
Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and on behalf of the Secretary General of AAU, Professor Etienne Ehile, and the Coordinator for the East African Office, Professor Faiza Mohammed, would like to welcome all of you to the African Universities Week organized by the East African Regional Office, hosted by the University of Khartoum and led by Professor Faiza Osman. And so on this note, I would like to hand over to Professor Faiza Osman, who is going to lead the entire process. At some point, we will receive the opening address of the Secretary General of AAU, Professor Etienne Ehile. So Professor Etienne Ehile will be online very shortly. And when he comes online, we will have his remarks. Ask a question, you will put your hand up, and then we'll enable your microphone for you to speak. And if you want to do anything or send a message, please do that in the chat pod and we'll all read it as well. And so I would like to hand over to Professor Osman and Faiza Osman to take over the proceedings. Professor Faiza, if you are there, please go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Welcome to you all in our activities on celebrations of African University Days. Actually, we are celebrating late due to some technical issues in our country. Before I introduce and give my presentation, I will give the floor to the Secretary General to give his speech and opening remark.
Good morning, everybody. Distinguished participants, ladies and all protocol observed. On behalf of the governing board, as well as the secretariat and the entire membership of the Association of African Universities, I take this opportunity to welcome all of you to this very important event on the calendar of Africa's higher education, the celebration of African Universities Week. The current event was supposed to take place on Tuesday, 10th November 2020, as part of the overall program of the celebration scheduled from 9th to 13th November. Unfortunately, it was postponed today for circumstances beyond our control. The African Universities Week is celebrated annually by universities in Africa to commemorate the birth of the AAU on the 12 weeks. It brings together higher education stakeholders across Africa to discuss contemporary issues pertinent to the improvement of the quality and the relevance of higher education, to the development of the African continent. This event has become a premier one on the calendar of AAU and has been celebrated by higher education institutions since the year 2000. Among the many objectives of this annual event, the week presents the opportunity to sensitize stakeholders on the role of African universities in the economic and social development of Africa. The AAU and stakeholders of the higher education sector have celebrated the African Universities Week each year in the week of November 12 and around a topic of interest to higher education. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme for this year's celebration, Digital Transformation in African Higher and Tertiary Education, was aptly chosen to stimulate dialogue on how African higher education institutions can digitally transform their various business processes. I mean, teaching and learning, working spaces, administrative operations, collaborations, knowledge services, research, and community engagement, among several other functions of higher education institutions. In addition of today's event, most of you were able to follow the bouquet of activities performed by AAU Secretariat at the headquarters and other regional offices from 9th to 13th November. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as I appreciate AAU East Africa Regional Office for also hosting this event to mark the African Universities Week, permit me to seize this opportunity to inform participants of another statutory event on the calendar of the AAU, which will be holding soon. That means the AAU General Conference. The General Conference, hosted once in every 4 years, is an assembly of representatives of all member institutions with key higher education stakeholders, including policymakers, academics, researchers, donor representatives, and others in attendance. This event is scheduled to take place from 8 to 11 July 2021 on the theme, The Future of African Higher Education, and it will be virtual. You are all invited to actively participate in this activity. We will share further information with all our stakeholders in due course. We call on all higher education institutions, our members, and development partners to collaborate with us in hosting this conference successfully. Do not hesitate to contact the AAU Secretariat to initiate discussions concerning partnering us to host this important event. Ladies and gentlemen, on this note, and on behalf of all members of the AAU, I wish you all a productive, fruitful, and successful session. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Ihili, for these nice words. Actually, the board of AAU was in from 1967, as it was mentioned earlier, and actually the AAU have a headquarters in Accra, Ghana, and 2 or 3 regional offices. The first regional office was established at University of Khartoum, Sudan in 1980, and the next one in Al Azhar University, headed by Professor Amani, and also North American office at Washington, D.C. We hope that Prof. Amani and Dr. Maxwell will be with us to give a final remark and appreciation. So before we start, I need to express my thanks for the continuous assistance, technical assistance from the AAU Secretariat in Ghana and also from other regional offices. Normally we work as a family and we organize all our work together. But I need to apologize for not being involved on some of the activity in the last coming months due to the technical problems in our country and in Sudan. AU is a technical arm of Association of African Communities in Higher Education and Coordinations Agency of the Higher Education Cluster of the Continental Educational Strategy in Africa, CISA 19 from 16 to 25. And normally our mission in our regional office and even at IU headquarters is to work for the development of higher educational institutions to achieve the international goals and agenda and to share our inputs in the educational developments. So the celebration of this year, as it was mentioned, is digital transformation in the African higher tertiary educations, and it was chosen to stimulate dialogue in how higher education institutions can digitally transform their various business process, teaching, learning, research, working space, management, and administrative operations in order to solve our recent problems. As all of body knows that the world will never be the same again after the outbreak and crisis of COVID-19. So we need to think about the future of higher education in Africa. What can we do and what will happen in future? Digital transformation in higher education, it's time to think differently. And it's time to establish a regional or country strategies to solve these problems. The key to digital transformation may be strategic thinking. So we need to think together, regionally and globally and internally, to find solutions for our problems. So digital transformation can range from simple to systemic, according to country policy, governmental strategies, and financial resources of different countries and different institutions. During this time, many activities had been implemented in different regional offices in NARU, in NAMO, and AAU to launch this issue and to highlight the importance of transformation of education in Africa. This event, we need or we can or we will highlight on the general experiences in virtual distance and e-learning during COVID-19 time across Eastern Africa. And if we see COVID-19 times, the situation will not stop at this level or at these problems. So many issues can arise later in Africa, which can affect the continuation of a normal education in different institutions. So we need to think about it and what is the role, our role at AAU to solve this problem. Actually, our strategies in our regional office, East African Regional Office, and normally we work together as a family, as I said, is to establish a regional forum or regional strategies to think about the future of higher education in Africa generally. So this workshop will be the start point. So we will highlight some issues and some experience from different African countries. The next workshop will be a technical one. So what can we do in Africa according to our available resources? The last activity will be the launching and inaugurations of African Forum of e-learning or of distance or e-learning. So we plan to establish or to formulate a formal body to think as a think tank, as a body who can think in all African issues or African institutions and try to sit down a national or a regional policies on how to solve this problem in recent time and in future. So it must be a regional initiative, and we take with us all other regional offices as usual, and we work together in that. In this workshop, we have presenters from different East African countries which can share their opinions and view in these issues. We have presenter from Kenya and Tanzania, Uganda and Sudan, and also our friend from South Africa, from other regions of Africa, who actually they work with us in our different forums and in different initiatives. So actually the format of this workshop will be in form of a formal presentations. For each participant will present the experience according to his views and his country situations about the digitalizations of higher educations, and it ranges from actual practice to technical parts, and at the end we have discussions to if anybody from other countries can have any question or query, we can, or the participant can answer and respond. Actually, we have participants from Somalia and from Rwanda and from other East African countries, besides our colleagues in other regional offices. So this workshop will be organized and chaired by Dr. Paul Habeniza from Rwanda, and the presenter, as I said, will be from different African country. Thank you very much for your participations, and we hope that at the end we can get up with some recommendation which can guide us to the second step of our planning, that the issue of technical, how can we implement, how can we use technologies in different African countries? What about the resources? And what about the general and country strategies in these issues? Thank you very much for your time to be with us here. And I saw the presenters are available here with us. So we can start our program. And please, Dr. Paul, you can take the floor and chair the first sessions of this workshop, the presentations of different participants who representing different African countries. Thank you.
Hello, you can hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, good. I think everyone can hear me. Thank you, Dr. Feza, for a good presentation and very insightful presentation about the AU programs and the incoming programs you have. And it's very important to celebrate this Africa University Day. As you mentioned, it was just postponed due to the technical problems we had last time. And thank you for a very insightful presentation that you made about the incoming programs and the activity that you plan to schedule for next time. And thank you, Secretary General, for good presentation and the welcome remarks concerning the AU programs and the celebration that we did today. My name is Paul Abineza. I'm going to chair this important, very important workshops. As you maybe you have checked about the calendar and the of today, we have the digitalized the higher education, the case of e-learning during the COVID-19. And I think Dr. Vani Naido from University of KwaZulu-Natal, College for Management, is already here. And would like to give the floor for Dr.
Oh, it appears we are getting a slight noise from the end. Thank you very much, sir.
Dr. Vani, you can unmute your microphone and take the floor.
Okay,
please.
thank you. Good. Can you
Good.
hear
Go
me?
ahead. Thank you.
Okay, can you allow me to share screen, please?
Yes, please go ahead. You can share your screen.
Okay, thank you. I'm trying. You need to allow me to share screen on your side, sir.
Yes, I have made you a co-host, and so you can share your screen now.
Okay, good.
So kindly click on share screen and you will be
I
successful.
have. Okay, yes. Sorry about that. Okay. Sorry about the technical glitch. You know, online portals and especially online sessions are always very interesting because they bring out these little technical issues that add a little flavor to the workshop or conference. Very good morning to you all. Thank you, Professor Feza and the chair. I am Professor Vani Naidu from the University of KwaZulu-Natal, Durban in South Africa. Today we'll be looking at digitalization in higher education, the case of e-learning during COVID-19. A basic overview will look at unpacking digitalization of African universities. We look at COVID-19 and e-learning. We look at specifically a South African scenario and how UKZN implements e-learning in South Africa. We look at challenges faced by students and staff during COVID-19, and then we'll briefly look at concluding remarks. Digitalization in higher education in Africa has been debated and spoken about for many years. The sudden and unexpected entrance of COVID-19 has shocked all nations of the world. To respond to COVID-19, many governments mandated a shutdown that affected all areas of society, education included. During the pandemic, learners and educators in Africa no longer have the luxury of a traditional classroom scenario, as it is against health regulations and government protocols to have a crowd of people together. The way forward was for many universities in Africa to migrate over to an on-learning remote or distance learning education.
Professor Vani, could you kindly put your presentation on a slideshow?
It is, oh my.
No problem at all. Thank you very much.
I am sharing.
Yes, you are sharing, but could you put it on a presentation mode?
Oh, okay. I need to go to, gosh, all these things do
you
not
can go to
allow.
slideshow.
No, I am in slideshow. The problem is I cannot click because our, okay. I know slideshow. I just have to move icons.
I think everyone can see the presentation. Yeah, it's okay now.
Yes.
But I can't see it, what I'm presenting. I don't know how to get out of this now.
So could you click the next page?
Okay, now I can't see. Okay, yes, it.
Okay, okay, now it is okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we can see the whole presentation.
Okay, because this thing, I will just move you guys the other screen of the Zoom to the bottom. Apologies for that. So basically, the next area under discussion or theme will be unpacking digitalization of African universities. The rapidity and growth with which the digital age is making its way into all facets of life in Africa, perhaps more radically than anywhere else on the globe. This was according to economists in 2013. Higher education institutions in Africa also implemented changes in the early 2000s to keep abreast of technology. However, there has been great debate about complete migration to online learning. Most universities believe in a blended learning approach. In South Africa, for example, universities have explored the blended classroom. However, COVID-19 forced many African universities to migrate to online learning platforms. So in South Africa, we are now completely digital, where we do use the flipped classroom and work with synchronous and asynchronous learning. Okay. Now I'm pressing. Okay, guys, this makes my life quite difficult because I can't move this slide down. Okay, now, okay, thanks. So some interesting comments from theorists on online learning over the years. Some interesting comments put forward by theorists. According to Holland and Arted, when it comes to technology, they stated that teaching with technology is not a one-size-fits-all approach, as it depends on the types of technology in use at the time and also the curriculum content being taught. Despite the best intentions of teaching staff to provide equitable and beneficial learning, the crisis response to migration progress of students and faculty members can also be viewed from the level of their digital competence and availability of information online. Prensky continues to say that contemporary students and some faculty members are digital natives and they are techno-savvy, so they can handle these systems. However, Bennett argues that a substantial number of staff and students do not have the skills expected and are not digital natives. Many academic staff members feel apprehensive and not suitably equipped to teach online, as they themselves may be still learning to use some of the platforms. Roberto rightly noted that this digital transformation of instructional delivery comes with several logistic challenges and attitudinal modifications. Online learning cannot be effectively and efficiently applied in some disciplines, and this compatibility gap is yet to be filled. Online platforms may work well in the discipline of humanities, for example, but not so well in sciences, where laboratory work or student engagement with patients is essential. Some challenges to online learning and some way forwards. One of the greatest challenges is adaptability. And students are used to a traditional classroom setup and find it difficult to adapt to the new online mode. They're also very easily distracted, etc. Change is often also hard to take in. It's a natural thing, obviously. Many people grow through this. The need to change mindsets so that online learning becomes more approachable to learners and lecturers. So we need a very impactful ways to change the mindsets and attitudes, both for learners and educators, because this is the way forward for Africa. In terms of technical support is another challenging area. Students may not have computers. Secondly, students may not have enough bandwidth. Also, there is no proper infrastructure in the area that can create tremendous problems for getting online and connecting with the lecture and the students in the online classroom. Students may also not know how to adapt to application of the online module. Another challenge is staying motivated. One of the things my students often say to me is they feel very alone and isolated with this new online e-learning scenario due to COVID-19. So it's not easy as we faced with COVID-19 on a global scale for both the lecturer and the student. It is necessary that lecturers need to champion support from family and administrators. Students should also champion support, not only from their lecturers, but from the online classmates or online administrators, as sometimes it is hard to share insecurities with your teacher. Another challenge is students practicing proper online etiquette. This is very important. At the onset of UKZN, that is my university, or many universities in South Africa, before we moved to online, which was basically in April, we had to train staff and students about specific online etiquette to employ during the online sessions, etc. So students were asked, don't communicate with teacher in caps, as it will be interpreted as screaming in emails or on the chats. Be respectful at all times on all online platforms. Be patient. Teachers sometimes have many modules and tasks at end to complete, so they may send you an email back late. This is why. So it's not that you're being ignored. We have reasons for this. Another important challenge is self-discipline. Students must manage their time efficiently and not leave assessments to last minute. They should minimize distractions. They should have a schedule in terms of learning. They should be committed and adhere to deadlines, especially for assessments. One of the hardest things is the students are alone. Example, I send out announcements and posts to my students in the different modules I teach and ask them to visit their Moodle site, which is our official online site. So they must regularly engage with the site and see chats and posts and videos and PowerPoint, etc. on the lectures to ensure that they're engaged at all times with the module. They need to have a time schedule and take constructive breaks. You know, you cannot be bombarded continuously with just visuals or slides, etc., or long Zoom sessions. You need to take constructive breaks. A South African university perspective on how we implemented online learning. UKZN is one of the top leading research and teaching universities in South Africa. Due to COVID-19, this year in 2020, UKZN migrated to the online or distance education platform, as we call it. Our academics at our university use the Moodle platform to communicate with their students online. There is no other form of communication except with the Moodle and the UKZN email. Students can only contact us via these sites. Also, they can only make contact with us via the university email they're allowed to have. Notes, audio lectures, videos, and notices about Zoom or Microsoft Teams lectures are placed on the Moodle announcement site. Students have to attend lectures via Zoom and Microsoft Teams. Assessments are uploaded on Moodle systems, and grading is also done on the input marks on a spreadsheet, and this is sent to the administrator, then uploads it to our Student Central. Rubrics and students' assessments are sent to the administrator, who files them for auditing purposes and also sends student feedback back to students so that they know where they're falling short or if they're doing well, etc. At UKZN, all staff, both admin and academic, as well as students, had to have online training provided by the university to skill them with how to migrate to the new online system. In conclusion, I'd like to say, learning during the pandemic is not easy. Students must practice patience with the online system, patience with their teachers, and patience with themselves. The academics also have a heavy burden to carry during this pandemic, as many of them are also taking care of sick family members or children. Academics need to have a balance. They should also make sure they have specific lecture and consultation times with their students. This way, the teacher has time for themselves. Thank you. This is the end of my presentation for today. Thank you, audience, for listening.
Vani. Thank you very much, Dr. Vani, for very important presentation. And you shared the journey of virtual from the physical to the virtual education, and the South Africa is one Africa that has very faced by the COVID-19, and I think we still struggle with the crisis and many patients and many challenges. Just you can move to some questions and the comments on the presentation. Let me, you can just put your question on the chat box. As well, you can raise the hands and we give the floor. Let us take some questions and comments on the presentation. But before we give the floor to the participant, Dr. Vani, I have some questions. You mentioned about some challenges you faced on the e-learning for computers the problem of internet connectivities, the proper infrastructure. What was the how did you manage for these issues? What were the answers and the response of the government and the other partners to these issues?
Okay, sir, thank you for that question. It's a very important question because many countries in Africa face this in terms of our infrastructure in some areas of Africa, especially areas in South Africa that are undeveloped, or rural areas, etc. When COVID-19 came into being, as in being announced as a world pandemic, and where the World Health Organization alluded us to this fact. You must try to understand our government was one of the first to respond in doing a total shutdown. Okay, it was crazy, but this was the way for us to save lives. So we put all our differences aside, and we listened to the president and UKZN had time to go look at students who had problems. They were physically, our online team at the university was physically contacting. We also did this where we started our training with students and staff, and those students who couldn't get on and had raised comments about problems. Firstly, we gave free data to students, a limited amount. We organized a good deal with the MTN, got on board with them, and we basically gave our students a percentage of free data. Also, we went on, I think it was Globe Protect, and we got certain of our sites to be run free, provided students and staff connect to it. Then we went and got our, how shall we say, technicians, our administrators, even staff, where we went online. We started with teaching and learning online in April. And slowly we started seeing we had to keep track of students do a SMS to our necessary centers to indicate whether they were having problems or not. There was staff on hand from our technical team to assist with them. Staff were also contacted, my students who contacted me, I would send the details necessary to the necessary administrative parts of our university, the IT staff and admin staff to deal with it. Another thing that was very important was after our lockdown stage, we're still in lockdown stage 1 at the moment, but you know, universities, etc., students have been allowed back. Most businesses are opened. So students who really could not connect via their mobile phones or their computers were then given the option to come back. Our Minister of Education asked for a comeback of student and a roll in during the different phases, because you must try to understand for the practical